Okay, great. So as Elisa has introduced, very thankfully, that we're going to be talking today about filming sisterhoods in Palestinian refugee camps and how this video making can lead to so many results, especially in the research process. Dennis Cosgrove spoke so much about the authority of images, and he spoke mostly about how geography is one of the very few, very visual social sciences that exist. On the other hand, filmmakers speak so much about how videos are the best visual representation of our mobile and very fastly moving world. Due to the pairing of these two facts or these two concepts together, I think we can understand why filming and video making has always been such an important resource of knowledge. It's such an important way for us to get to know the world, the way it's moving and its inhabitants and the way it's changing. However, we've also realized that this kind of claim about the significance of video making did come along history with such a big responsibility. It is Gillian Rose, for example, that reminds us that any visualities that we rely on or even we produce as geographers are never neutral. So for example, any kind of visual tool that we use contributes to shaping the knowledge and the perception of the field. The same way that a geographer produces positionality when you choose a text or a book or a website for your lecture or for your research or for your literature review. The same way that when you use a video or an image in the classroom, you produce certain roles or certain hierarchies in the domain in which you are teaching or researching in. Now, when we speak about the video making process as a knowledge production process, we have to bear in mind the camera's colonial history as well. As Cairns would say, that a clear geography of the camera throughout history really allows us to understand the relationship between where was the camera produced, where was its knowledge disseminated, who had it, who knew how to use it, and then on the other hand, what kind of production was made and what purposes did that knowledge production serve. So the question here becomes, if video making and filming has been a colonial tool, how can this tool contribute to a decolonial research process? Leanne Simpson's works mostly on land as a pedagogy, and she works mostly on indigenous communities. And I really like the way she asserts that if colonization has mostly been about disconnecting native humans and indigenous people from their land, then maybe the practice of decolonizing is a practice that must involve forms of education that reconnects indigenous people to their land and reconnects indigenous people or people in general to knowledges that arise from that land that they are being taken from or disconnected from. So today what I try to explore here with you is the widespread of technology and smartphones and internet and cameras in the global south being paired with the COVID-19 restrictions that locked away the Western researchers in their world, and how this kind of pairing of unfortunate events have allowed communities to take over the way they're being represented on the global arena, and specifically to Western research. Now, to be more specific, I'm going to give an example from Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon. There are actually quite a big number of examples that do serve the same idea, such as Kingdom of Women or Kayani, and maybe later on you can Google them. But today I'm going to take one specific example, and it is the example of Sufra. And Sufra is basically a group of women, a group of Palestinian refugee women who live in Burj al-Barajni refugee camp, which is the Lebanese capital. And these women enjoyed such a strong notion of sisterhood among each other. But they also felt that every time the connection to each other was stronger, their connection to their Palestinian identity and land was getting stronger. So while spending time together and cooking together, they were also exchanging stories. They were exchanging also knowledge. One simple conversation from these settings was, for example, speaking about food. What are you cooking today? And one woman would answer, oh, I'm cooking a certain dish that involves wheat and tomato sauce. And then another woman would intervene to speak about the history of this dish and how it's related to the production of tomatoes in the West Bank. When, for example, another woman jumps in to respond about how she hates that dish because it reminds her of the siege over the refugee camps in the 80s, and how when they didn't have access to fresh food because of the siege over the camp, they would be forced to eat this dish for 30 consecutive days. So the women of Sufra told stories as they cooked, but also because they were from different areas in Palestine. They were displaced from different villages and different cities. With these settings, they learned about each other's native dishes, but then also native lands and native plants and natural herbs and nuts that grew in that area and later became ingredients to their everyday meals. Then these women actually decided to start their catering project where they cook and sell these traditional Palestinian food to the surrounding communities. And they began filming their meetings, filming these sessions, filming these conversations, and filming their experience as an attempt from them to document this knowledge, to document this very informal exchange of information, and maybe to expand its influence on Palestinian youth. They even also created this video of themselves trying to kickstart a crowdfunding campaign. The video circulated the world. They collected enough money to fund the purchase of a food truck, where now Palestinian refugee women cook this food, tour all over Lebanon, breaking all the boundaries that are there, selling food, sharing food also, and telling the stories of this food, what this food means, where it comes from, where the idea comes from, or the idea of the ingredients, and then thus telling the story about the land and also sharing it on video. Later on, Sufra became a documentary. And today I'm going to show you a trailer only of the documentary. Unfortunately, we don't have time to watch it. And let me play the trailer for you so we can get a better idea of what the work of Sufra or the experience of Sufra looked like.
المشكلة إنه إحنا ظروف البلد صعبة.
ما في شغل بلبنان، ما في مستقبل، فبحس حالي فعلا بالسجن.
شو ممكن إحنا نعمله لنحسن أدائنا ومستوانا؟ كانوا عم بيقولوا يا ريت نعمل شيء له علاقة بالطبيخ.
كل شيء طيب عندي.
Amazing women have started their own catering company in Palestinian Refugee Camp in Lebanon. We're launching this Kickstarter campaign to buy a food truck.
A project such as Miriam's improve our local communities.
تحسي بحالك أكثر، تحسي بقيمتك أكثر، إنك أنت عم تعطي أكثر.
أول ما ولا مرة أنا طالعة متخيلة بهالوقت أنا بدي أتعلم السواقة. أبداً.
التجربة هي بتعطي للواحد أمل لقدام.
إحنا قدمنا كل ورقنا للنافعة محل ما بتتسجل التراك، بس لازم يمضيها وزير الداخلية.
There are a lot of obstacles, regulations and laws regarding these people. It's unjust for them.
هناك تشديد على إعطاء رخص العمل لغير اللبنانيين.
وجبت لك أنا كل الأوراق.
أنت فوتر لك إياه من عندي، بده يكون عندك معك رخصة تقدر أعطيك إياه.
بضل الواحد قلقان. هول الستات متكلين على هالشي. كل لاجئ بحالة حلم، دائما بيحلموا بالحياة الأفضل.
For them, there is no plan B. Plan B is repeat plan A until it works out.
بحس إنه إحنا عم نعطي صرنا طاقة إيجابية لحدا تاني غيرنا.
النسوان بتقدر تجرب كل شيء، بتقدر تشتغل بأي شيء، وهلأ بالعصر اللي نحن فيه كل شيء عم تشتغل المرأة.
She's giving these people hope.
الإنسان لازم يكون شوي جريء وشجاع إنه يجرب.
نأمل أن تكون الحياة أفضل في المستقبل.
Okay. Well, During the pandemic and due to lockdowns, the view of documentaries like this skyrocketed. Everyone was online and researchers had to resort a lot to online tools to learn about the communities that they were trying to study. But people now were able, through these kind of productions, were able for a little bit to see through the gaze of these women. And most importantly, the creation of such videos, it wasn't just inspiring. For me, it was very inspiring to see, but it was also disturbing a lot of the conventional maps that exist. If normally we map or situate refugees only in a camp, or we situate refugees as being uprooted or in transit, or we situate refugee women in the kitchen or in the house, through this kind of work, we do get to see a regenerated map. We see refugee women everywhere, in a market, on the roads, in business meeting, on our screens, and they're enjoying more types of mobility that we think that there is. So these women are recreating the maps for us. They're linking themselves to Palestine, which they are geographically external to, but they're also linking themselves to Lebanon. They are linking themselves to the kitchen and the house, but also they're linking themselves to the university and the academia and the knowledge production space. So they are reattaching themselves to all the territories that they desire to be attached to. And they're presenting the Western eye with new possibilities of knowledge that maybe were not thinkable from their perspectives. So as a researcher, one can only acknowledge and accept these videos or these productions as a really important contribution for research. I thank you a lot for your attention, and maybe we'll have a discussion at the end. Thank you.